Students of Success, Dr. Mike here. Hey, today I wanted to talk to you about leadership styles. And this was brought to my attention. I did a lecture last night for one of my sports marketing classes, and we talked about the 6 different leadership styles. And the reason I want to talk to you about this is not only for you to understand your leadership style, but to understand the leadership styles that maybe you're working under. And once you understand these styles, you're going to better be able to perform on the job. And it all comes down to self-awareness. So one thing in my career readiness course that I teach, when you're going for an interview and you're going to work for a company, you also want to be able to interview them as well. And you do this doing your due diligence beforehand, using LinkedIn, using different things, linking up with people to ask certain questions, because we all operate under a different style of leadership, to our highest potential. Some of us like to be told what to do and not to think. Other of us hate that, and they need to be able to have a free flow over the process. So I wanted to get into these, and I wanted you to be able to understand them and go through the day and look at your leader, look at the person that you work for, and also understand that even though you may not be in a specified leadership position, we're all leaders. First, we lead ourselves. But secondly, whenever you're working at your job and you're part of a group and you're part of collaborating with others, you will see that these different leadership styles come into effect and how you can get your points across and get things done in different ways, and being able to individually treat certain people in different ways to be able to bring out the best in them. The first one is autocratic. And obviously we all understand, we've seen autocratic leaders. We've seen, first autocratic would be under a dictatorship, being told what to do, how to do it, or else. Now this works in some situations. It works in sports teams. It works in the military. It works in different things where you're not expected to think for yourself. There is no creativity on your side. Now, some people actually like this. They like it because it allows them to go to their job, not think at all, and just do what they're told, because there's no responsibility on your end. It's all on the leader at this point. So if that's your style and you like that, then you will operate at your highest level in that. The next one over that is democratic. Democratic would basically be the exact opposite, where you go in to work, you're working with others, and everybody's opinion counts. You sit down, you have a common goal. The leader comes in and says, okay, what's your thought on this? What's your thought? It's almost like a brainstorming type thing. When everybody has ownership, when everybody has a part of it, and whenever you can become part of the process, part of the project, you tend to be able to give a little bit more because you have ownership and it comes back to you. Now this doesn't work in all aspects. I use a couple examples. I used to own a pizza franchise, and the democratic process would not work because these people weren't there for a career. There's a difference between a career and a job. A job is something you might have for a couple years, and it's lower level. It doesn't involve much thinking. It goes with a different leadership style here we're going to talk about in a second. And also autocratic didn't work in that process either, because it is so hard to find workers today, which is why because people don't want to work. They don't want to put in the time. It's easier to sit at home and get a paycheck. So if there's one of those people, being a hard-nosed autocratic leader in that type of a position didn't work because people just wouldn't come. And democratic because they didn't understand anything. So the third one that I'm going to talk about is laissez-faire. Laissez-faire is basically when you're hired to do something, it's just free flow. You're not told what to do. This would be something of highly creative people. If you are hired to be like an artistic type person, you're creating software, you're doing these things where you go into the office and there's lounge chairs everywhere, and you're sent into your office, there is an ultimate goal. You find the pathway to that yourself. Nobody's standing over your shoulder. It might take you a week. You might just be playing games. You might be doing whatever. They don't care as long as how you get to the end result, but as long as you get there. This is very hard for people because it takes a lot of discipline. And if you're not a disciplined individual, you're going to fly off track and never get anything done. So this one is it's not used very often, really only in the creative space. So unless you are in that type of a space, you're a musician, you're a creative drawer, you're designing software, you're doing that type of stuff, this one probably will not click with you, or it's not something that you've seen much of. The next one would be servant leadership. Servant leadership, we don't see it very much in our day-to-day process, but servant leaders would be somebody like Mother Teresa, Martin Luther King, John F. Kennedy, somebody who has given their life to a certain goal, a process, and it's very hard for people to actually jump into this type of lifestyle because it takes a lot out of you, and it requires 100% commitment. These kind of people give their lives, literally, some of them giving their lives for this process. There aren't a whole lot of servant leaders, but there is situational leadership where at some point in time you have to, I take it the example as a piece of spaghetti, and that spaghetti is laying on the table. You could get behind it and push it from behind, and it's going to all twirl up, and you're not going to be able to push it across the table. A servant leader would be somebody who goes out in front, grabs a hold of it, and pulls it across the table, sets that example, sets such a high example and a standard for other people to live up to. It's inspiring. But they're not telling you what to do. They are just setting that example. Gandhi did not tell people to go on a hunger strike, to do all those things, but he did it as an example to set for other people to get he served others through his process. So by what he did, what John F. Kennedy did, what Martin Luther King did, what Mother Teresa did, all did these types of things to serve others without the expectation really of return. Honestly, in politics, that used to be considered a servant leadership position, but somehow these politicians are going in making $100,000 a year and coming out multi-millionaires. So the only people that a lot of them are serving these days are themselves, and they're lifelong, politicians. I served 4 years on a school board. It was 4 of the hardest years of my life to serve, not get paid, not get anything for it. It was rewarding in certain aspects, but probably something that I wouldn't necessarily do again, especially in this area. That's a whole different topic. The next one would be transactional. Now, this is one that we see a lot, and one that gets messed up in the process of careers. Transactional is, here, I use my pizza shop, for example. Here's a written process to come in, to use the fryers, to use the ovens, to do these types of things. You do these things, you show up at 4 o'clock, you stay till 10, here's your paycheck or your reward. It's a transaction, the whole thing. There's no inspiration, there's no dictatorship. There are processes that need to be done, and in a lot of situations, this is something that occurs in an industry like woodworking, or all of the different plumbing, heating, building, roads, anything where there's a dangerous situation. You need to have a transactional type leadership, because there are certain processes that have to be followed or somebody is going to get hurt. So there's not growth, there's not building, there's nobody standing there telling you could be more, not where you're here now and we want to see you grow into this type of position. That's not how transactional leadership works. After you're there for years and you're in a union or something and you move up, yes, because you've increased your skill set, but it's still a transaction. It's still a 9-to-5 job. When you go home, you don't think about it. You work your 40 hours in the week, you get your paycheck. And some people like that because it also doesn't require a whole lot of thought, and it doesn't require any risk to you as a person with your paycheck with that. Now, the last one I want to talk about that is the most important, that is sorely missing in this country, especially when it comes to careers, is transformational. Now, think of this. You work in a school district, you're a teacher. You're going to be there for 30 years. A lot of schools are being run in the transactional manner. You know, come at 8 o'clock in the morning, stay till 4, do your job, and leave. That works in a pizza shop because these students that work for me, they were just coming in to make enough money to go out and have fun on the weekends. They weren't there for a career. So it was okay. They weren't looking to become pizza experts. They were just looking to drive, to make some pizza, to do whatever it was in this process to be able to get to the next, to move on to a career. But when you're in a career and you're caught in a transactional leadership, it can just drive you into the ground. You need to have somebody in a transformational leadership. That is somebody who inspires, who motivates, who recognizes achievement, that wants you to become a leader, that says, okay, here you are today, and I'm going to help you get to where you want to be tomorrow. This is the type of leadership that needs to happen in careers. And think about it. If you don't have this type of leader and it's transactional, things start to fall apart. Little cliques start to form. Morale goes down. People are just there for the job, especially in the education field. Imagine when you're in a job that you can't be fired for, that no matter how hard you work, the person who's doing the very least next to you is getting paid the exact same amount. So there is no inspiration. There is no incentive for you. Without a transformational leader to make you feel good, you should want to be there. You should be able to go to a job. And a lot of people will leave jobs, transactional jobs, to go to follow a transformational leader and take a reduction in pay. If you're a leader and people will follow you and make less money, then you are doing your job. Because living a life as a transactional type worker is not fulfilling to people. So I want you to think about, with those styles, who do you work for? Do you work for the autocrat? Do you work for the Democrat? Do you work for a laissez-faire leader? Do you work for a transactional leader? Do you work for a servant leader? Do you work for a transformational leader? And if once you've figured that out and you understand each of these levels, think about yourself. Think about, how do I lead people? So if you are in a leadership position right now, think about how you're leading people. And there's also situational leadership where you can't be, there are times you have to be an autocrat. There are times you have to have a democracy. You know, when you're holding a meeting, even if you are a transformational leader, when you bring people in, you want to hear everybody's perspective and get them buying in. And there are times whenever you have to be a servant. You have to go out there and just do things and not expect others to even follow you, but to set the example. There are times whenever you have to be an autocratic leader, and you have to say, we need to get this done. This is the way it is. I don't want to hear any excuses. Just do it. Okay? So there are certain aspects, but you have to choose one over the other to be your dominant leadership style. So look at your leader. I said we have a leader. Some people, I wouldn't even give them the leadership title, because there are some people out there that are in those types of positions that are not leading. They are just floating in the wind. They don't have a specific style. You couldn't even nail them down on things. And a lot of times people don't complain so much because they're like, well, as long as the boss leaves me alone, I'm just happy with that. I'm not fulfilled in my job. The culture is terrible. I'm not growing, but at least they're not bothering me. So think about that in your process. Think about, if you were put into a leadership position, which one of those things that you would use. And understanding and have awareness of these will help you better, guide yourself into how you can get things done. Because if you are going into You want to own a small business, like I said, a pizza shop, and you want to be this transformational leader, and it's not going to work. It won't work because the people aren't there to grow. They're there just to get a paycheck. The same thing is whenever you're in a career. If you're a teacher in a school district, they are, I know in my wife's school, they are crying out for a transformational leader to just say, please lead us somewhere, inspire us to want to be part of this team, and inspire us to want to be more. And I'll leave you with one last leadership technique, something that I learned in all of my 27 years of being a business owner that I screwed up a lot of times. And even as a coach in a sports team, the people that are, and I see this even in the school district, people that are doing their jobs do not necessarily need to have a continuous pat on the back, you're doing a great job, a reward for doing their job. However, the thing that will disincentivize them, that will destroy a culture, is when those people that are not doing what they're supposed to be doing are not reprimanded. That destroys the system, because whenever you are working hard and doing what you're supposed to be doing, and then the person over here is completely screwing up, late to work every day, runs out the door early, doesn't follow instruction, just does the bare minimum to get by, but makes the same pay as you and is never reprimanded, that destroys the culture. So if you are a leader, don't worry about your top people that are doing their jobs. They're there for you. You have to focus on those ones that are not doing their job, and they need to be reprimanded, and some of them need to be fired. That will make those other ones, give them inspiration, give them motivation, give them drive to continuously doing what they're doing, because the ones that aren't are being taken care of. If you can remember that one little trick, that one little technique in it, it will make your leadership job so much easier. It will cause people to want to follow you because you have a standard. Too many people out there in leadership positions have no standard. What goes today doesn't tomorrow, and what could there's nothing set. There is no standard, and people are always wondering. They're looking like this over their back. They're like, when are they coming for me? Are they trying to get a paper trail on me? Why is it so silent? Why is nobody talking? When you're a leader, you have got to get out there and you have to be seen on a daily basis by your followers on any of these different styles. When you're not seen, that makes people nervous. Makes them wonder, what's going on? Am I in trouble? Are they trying to make a list of things and then all of a sudden, gotcha? I see that at school all the time too. The gotcha leadership. It's like you think everything's going good, and the whole time they're just sitting there with their pen, making this down, marking this down, making a list. I get a little file on this person, and then all of a sudden they bring you in and say, back on 9/6 of 22, you did this, you did da, and they have a whole big paper trail on you. And you're like, well, why didn't you say something to me over those years? And they think that this is the type of style that's going to inspire people to do their best. It's sad. And a lot of people have not had the proper training to be in the positions. I know the person that I'm talking about has zero ability to be in the position that they're in. But they're making $100,000 a year, can't be fired, and it's just going to flow by. And people, the good people, at some point in time in your organization, if you're not doing the right job, will flow out. And that's what's happening in our situation. The good ones are all looking for alternatives, and the ones that aren't good have no reason to go anywhere. They love it, and it just keeps building up that bad, negative culture. And at some point in time, once an organization has built a negative culture, it's almost impossible even for a new leader to come in to break that up, to break up the cliques, to break up the atmosphere, to break up the culture. If you can't get rid of people, it's very poisonous and destructive. And if you're in a bad culture like that, think about it. You are in your job more than you are at home around your family. It is a bigger part of your life. And when you come home every day, you bring all that negativity with you and you just dump it on people, it can ruin your life. So, as I always say, there's only so many tomorrows. Live your best life. So not only are you trying to improve yourself, look at the people that you work with. Look at the person who is supposed to be leading you on a daily basis. Are they poisoning your life with bad leadership, with bad culture, with bad atmosphere, with just the way that they're doing it? Because if they are, you need to make a decision. Is this the way I want to live the rest of my life? Or do I want to make a change? And if I get put in a leadership position, am I the one that's making people miserable? Am I the one that's providing a horrible culture? Step back from what you're doing. Analyze it. Become aware. Ask questions. Get involved. And become the best leader you can. And when you do that in your life, you will live at the highest level and live the best life you can. So until next time, guys, there's only so many tomorrows. Live them the very best you possibly can. And I'll talk to you again.